In days gone by, there lived a poor widow who had only one son. His name was Seamus, and he was the laziest, most foolish lad you could imagine. Every morning his mother got up early to milk the cows, and light the fire, and bring water from the well. But Seamus lay in bed till midday. He spent his days wandering the fields, talking to himself, and making poems in his head. When night came, he might take down the old uilleann pipes that once belonged to his father. Though the old man had been a famous piper, lazy Seamus only ever bothered to learn one tune. However, as there was a great shortage of musicians at the time, Seamus was invited to every feast and funeral. One Halloween night there was a dance in the next valley. Word came for Seamus to go over. He washed and shaved, making every ooh and ah at himself in the spotted mirror. "Now, Seamus McGraw," said his mother, "don't let any girls be making eyes at you, and mind you don't be drinking whisky, for fear you'd fall into a bog-hole. And there'll be fresh soda bread waiting for you when you get home." He set off. The moon hung low, and the road was polished with light. He didn't mind the odd shapes of briar and branch, or the wind that hummed in the hawthorn bushes. Neither did he notice the shadow that stepped behind him, though it wasn't his. On he went, thinking only of the welcome and the warm fire that awaited him. When Seamus reached the house, all was as expected. There was a cheer and a clap as he pushed in the half door. He was brought straight to the hearth to the warm fire. The dancers were ready and eager, and never seemed to mind that he could only play one tune. The night flew past. Between dances they had snap-apple and ducking, and toasted barmbrack. At last it was time to go. The people of the house came with him to the door. "Safe home now, Seamus," they said, "and mind the puka." The puka was a spirit that was said to roam Halloween night. It was thought to be something halfway between a horse and a goat. It spat on blackberries and all wild fruits, so no one could eat them after that. Seamus was not thinking about the puka as he set off home. He was thinking of the fresh milk and soda bread his mother would have left for him. He was thinking of his cosy bed by the fire, and how he could lie there listening to the crackles of the fire in the hearth. He was thinking that he could wait in bed in the morning, and his mother might bring him tea in bed when she had finished milking. The road seemed long, and Seamus was very tired. When he got to Clonus Bridge, he stopped to rest. He dropped his pipes on the grass and leaned over to look in the water. The moon shimmered up at him. It made him dizzy to look at the gold of it coming and going and breaking and going up again. He shook his head as he stooped for his pipes. "Can you play the white gander?" asked a voice behind him. Seamus nearly dropped dead with fright, for he could see no one. Then, out of the shadows, stepped a strange creature. It looked like a horse, but there were two curling horns on its head. Seamus knew at once it was the puka. "Can you play the white gander?" said the puka again. "The white gander," stuttered Seamus. "I never heard of it." "Come here," said the puka. "I'll teach it to you." But Seamus couldn't move hand or foot with the fright. Over stepped the puka and poked him with his horns. "Now play," he said. Seamus put the pipes to his elbow, though he knew well that he had only one tune in his head, and it wasn't the white gander. To his great surprise, a roll of notes came pouring from the pipes, clearer and sweeter than any he had ever heard. His fingers flew off on their own, while the music soared over the fields and away into the night. Children smiled in their sleep, and old people dreamed themselves young again. "That's powerful music," said the puka, "and I know who'd love to hear it. Come with me now, and you'll be richly rewarded." Before Seamus could speak, he found himself on the puka's back and clattering along the road. With one hand he clutched the puka's shaggy white hair, and with the other he clung tightly to his pipes. Faster and faster they went, swerving in across the bogs. They galloped over streams and through woods. Once a fox crossed their path. Seamus saw his red, frightened eyes, but they were not nearly so frightened as his own. Now they were up and away above the earth. Higher and higher they soared. Below him Seamus saw the sleepy town and the top of the church steeple. Wind whisked his ears and billowed his jacket out behind him. Once he nearly slid off and made a frantic grab to steady himself. He cried out with terror, but the pooka chuckled. "Hold on to your pipes, Seamus," he said. "We're nearly there." "But where were they going?" Seamus asked. "To the top of Knocknashee, the fairy mountain," said the pooka. "The fairy host is waiting. They always have a party on Halloween night." Seamus groaned. "I'll never see my mother again," he thought. "When the fairies got hold of you, they never let you go." The mountain loomed before them. "We're going to crash," he gasped, but the pooka only laughed and landed lightly on his feet. Seamus tumbled head first into a clump of heather. There was no house to be seen, not a candle or a lamp. "Where's the party?" asked Seamus, getting stiffly to his feet. The pooka didn't say a word. He tapped with his horns on a huge slab of rock. Immediately it opened into a hollow of soft golden light. "Follow me," said the pooka. He trotted down a long passage and into a great hall. 1,000 lamps sparkled on the walls. Arches and stairs of polished marble swept over a glass floor. In the centre stood a great table, and there sat 100 old hags. Seamus had never seen anything so ugly in his life. Their skin was creased and dripping, their hair matted and grey. Some had no teeth, and others had animals' claws for nails. But they grinned at Seamus as he crossed the floor. "I have brought you the best piper in Ireland," said the pooka. "Now give him food and drink." Seamus looked at the food. Cakes light as sea foam, drinks sparkling with bubbles. But though he longed for a taste, he shook his head. "No thanks," he said. "I'm not hungry." He remembered in time what his mother always said. If once you eat or drink in the fairy world, you will never return home. One old hag stamped her foot. "A chair for the piper," she called. "Let the dancing begin." A door opened and in walked a white gander carrying a chair. "Music, Seamus," cried the pooka. The gander began to squawk and screech, and Seamus began to play. He wondered what would happen when they found out he had only one tune. He need not have worried. After the tune came the white gander, then the waves of Tory, and the stack of barley, and the bridge of Athlone, and the siege of Venice. On and on he played, each tune sweeter and livelier than the last. He could not understand it. Seamus played for hours. His fingers dashed and his elbow flew and his eyes popped in his head. Round and round the hags went whirling. Their long grey hair flew out behind them. Their black skirts swirled. They shuffled and twisted and battered and stepped, backwards and forwards and in and out, in fours and sixes and eights. All night long they danced while Seamus played. At last they were tired, but Seamus could not stop playing. Faster and faster went the music, wilder and wilder the dance. They whirled around in one gigantic circle, until all was blurred in a mad, hectic swirl. Suddenly the white gander charged over and pierced a hole in the pipes. Whoosh! All the air came rushing out of the pipes, and the pipes fell silent. Seamus mopped his forehead. "If the gander didn't stop you," said a voice, "we would have danced till we all dropped dead." Seamus blinked and shook his head. All the old hags were gone, and in their place stood 100 beautiful girls with shining hair and skirts like rainbows. Smiling and laughing, they gathered around Seamus. "Your music has made us young again," they said. "We are very grateful. We are sorry about your pipes, but the white gander has another set for you. They are the best pipes in all of the country." Now here's payment for your hard night's work, and they each gave him a gold coin. Before Seamus had time to say thank you, he was up on the puka's back. Once more they whirled through the night, and only stopped when they reached Clonus Bridge. Seamus turned to say goodbye to the puka, but he wasn't there. Only a wisp of mist shimmered over the river and disappeared. In the distance a cock crowed. The sun was coming up. Seamus walked home, his pockets heavy with gold. Carefully he hung up the set of new pipes. He drank his milk and ate the fresh soda bread. Then he put on the fire, milked the cows, and brought the water from the well. His mother nearly fainted when Seamus brought her tea and breakfast in bed. Seamus was never foolish any more. He and his mother had plenty of money. He became the best piper in the land. His favourite tune was the White Gander, but he never played it on Halloween night.